Alright guys, HyDra here again today. Hope you're doing good and enjoying your day so far. The CDL is back in action this evening. Roster changes did happen over the last couple of days, but only Cloud9 massively blew it up last night. OpTic Texters elected to stick with their roster, and Shotzzy explains exactly why, saying that yes, they still have this delusional confidence. They're actually a good team, but that confidence, it seems, is based on some reality, because can you believe it, apparently OpTic scrims have been going rather well over the last couple of days. Shotzzy sees potential in this current team of 4. Will that potential actually manifest when they get back in the server tomorrow? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to start here. This, of course, the Los Angeles Thieves that won the championship just a few days ago. I thought this is a pretty funny reaction from Nadeshot, Ernie and Paco, of course that being Scrap and HyDra, both asked for a raise and bonuses, so I'm not posting the photos with the team, although I eventually did. I said, thank you for doing what you are paid to do. So, you know, pretty funny, right? Look, at the end of the day, if those guys want their bonuses for winning the major, bake it into the contract before the season starts. Say, look, if I win a major, I'm going to get this amount of bonus, and maybe that's the incentives that these guys need. But Nadeshot also said it on stream and was like, look, they're yapping at me. Look, it's all tongue-in-cheek, right? It's all in jest. But the idea that, you know, the players were saying, look, Nate, we did it, right? We won an event. It's like, okay, now go win champs, right? Now go win EWC. That would be nice. So far, you're just doing, especially last weekend, what you have been paid to do. Nadeshot also did reveal, though, probably the big topic on the Thieves of the day is that they do have contracts until the end of 2026. So, you know, which probably makes sense, but they are contracted, it seems, because it used to only be like a 1+1 you could sign. Now it's possible for the teams to sign their players to a 2+1, a 2+0, whatever they want to do, I think is possible nowadays. So it seems like that's what Thieves have done, that Scrappy, HyDra, Ghosty and Envoy are all signed until the end of 2026. So after this season, they are not going to be free agents, which of course would be expected, but that's the way that Thieves are handling things. Now, what that means in terms of, let's say, another team coming on and trying to get these guys, because let's be real here, the Falcons aren't going away. There's talk about Twisted Minds, potential CDL team coming in, Saudi Arabian organization. There's talk about aBeZy, we talked about a few days ago, being another one. If they come along and they say, all right, we'll give you 3 million quid, then, you know, what happens, right? Like, because contracts exist, but they only exist to a certain point. Let's talk Rostermania, though. One of the big updates to yesterday was pretty surprising, was from Encourage. Now, Encourage has been a name that's gone around the Challengers community for some time. I mean, even before Challengers, he was noticed as, you know, from Zoomers, like sub-8s and stuff like this, right? And then he made a name for himself in that regard, started taking challenges semi-serious. It was pretty good, you know, was on the Stallions, had some promise, I think, to show. But he mentioned a couple of months ago now that he wasn't really feeling it, right? That he felt like his, you know, he might call it a day in challenges. He didn't really feel like the reward was there for the risk that he was taking. And it's a very interesting, you know, set of circumstances here, right? Because, you know, there's a few different angles to this. Either people are criticizing Encourage and say, oh, you know, he's not taking it seriously enough, clearly he just didn't have the dog in him or whatever to keep it going. Maybe he just wasn't good enough. Like, that's also another possibility. But the other argument very much so is that maybe he's doing a very smart thing and stepping away from a scene and an ecosystem which is clearly not especially well aligned to actually helping these players make careers out of it in the longer term, right? We know that Tier 2 is struggling, and as he says, you know, it's just difficult to find anything compelling. For guys like Encourage, what might make more sense, let's be honest, is you go to college, go to university, and then play college COD. It's like been a viable strategy for some time now. So there were some interesting replies to this, right? Because, look, I think he potentially could come back, and as he even says, I agree, I do believe that in a couple of years I can most definitely go to the league. I just don't want to sacrifice the time and effort when you've got to put in 8 hours a day into the game, making $0 doing it just for the chance to get paid a minimum wage, you know? And it's like, you know what, fair enough. Whatever you think about Encourage and whether he, you know, was, because obviously he was pretty hyped. I mean, it was only a few months ago where Dashy said he thinks this guy's going to win the World Championship one day. And that's quite the statement to make for a guy in Dashy who's, you know, one of the most talented players ever and has now got a World Championship ring to his name as well and is playing for OpTic. So, you know, those are big statements, but also from Encourage's side, I totally get it, right? Like, if I was in Encourage's shoes, would I have gone down a different path? I don't really know, right? I mean, you know, it's sensible on some level, even though many would say, look, Encourage, he had the opportunity with Zoomer and the Stallions, and like they helped him make a name for himself, and maybe, you know, he should have done a better job taking advantage of that. Maybe he thought it was going to be more straightforward to make it in the league, and of course, turned out that was not the case at all. But, you know, then you get, I think Doug was even responding and saying, look, don't pay too much attention to opinions. It's always an open door, potentially, to come back in. The itch never goes away. There was some interesting interesting discussions, though, that, like, look, if you commit to the longer term, it might well work out. Guys like Abuzah, for example, I mean, he was kicking around in European challenges for a couple of years before he really made it work. And there's been a few other, even Ghosty, for example, right? Like, Ghosty did not just magically appear out of nowhere. Like, Ghosty was known, but it took one specific team and environment with Doug. Like, it took that team to help elevate Ghosty, and people thought, okay, wow, this guy's really good. And actually, he improved a lot. So for Encourage, it's a tricky one, because had he stuck it out in challenges, played with some different teams, different teammates, it's very plausible that next year, year beyond, all of a sudden, you know, he really takes a big step. And that's usually how it is in Tier 2. There's not been that many players in Tier 2 that have come into the scene and immediately just absolutely taken over. There are a few notable ones, obviously, who come into challenges and just immediately are the best. But for many players, that's not really true. It's tough down there, right? It is tough. So, but I understand it totally from either side. Let's talk Rostermania in the Pro League, though, because, well, Cloud9 actually did decide to blow it up. Now, this is a very interesting rumor. We touched on it yesterday because Sib said, that's cap, right? To discussions around Capital coming in instead of Craze. Or the fact that they wanted Craze in the first place. This is the rumor. So management at Cloud9 wanted Craze and Mack, apparently. Now, interesting, of course, because Craze, well, Capsidal, they trialed Capsidal. So you might think, well, if they were going to go get anyone, they'd go and get Cap, right? Rather than Craze. But anyway, apparently that's what they considered. Mack didn't want to happen, or Mack didn't want to go, or something else happened. And if I'm Mack, I get it, right? I totally get it. We discussed that over the last couple of days. Sib wanted Capsule to come in, and apparently Sib then threatened to bench himself if that was the direction they were going. And that there was a tweet, I didn't share it for you guys yesterday, but there was a tweet that said that Cloud9 are going to have 4 new players, and I thought, this is outrageous, I'm not even going to mention it. But I think this is what he was getting at, apparently. The idea that Sib wanted to play with Capsule, probably fair enough. Whatever else happens, who really knows? This is a rumor, it's been spread around, it's probably become somewhat hyperbole, but who knows? The bottom line is, they have made a change, and it's a substantial change at that. Now, interestingly enough, right, they're not even getting rid of just 2 players, they're also getting rid of one of their coaches, right? Okay, Lamar stays, but Tupac, he of course, search and destroy guy formerly for FaZe, and I guess they've decided that, you know, from a budget perspective, he's just not going to be there any longer. And I guess at the end of the day, if you're a search and destroy coach and the search isn't good, then it is what it is. So anyway, Attach and Mack are gone, and they're officially off the organization. And yeah, it's tough. I mean, it was kind of inevitable. I felt like Attach was... It was going to be difficult for him to maintain his spot for some time. I think a couple of stages ago, Mack would have kept him. But right now, I think that this 2-man change for these 2 players is probably inevitable. Could they have done this before? I think that was the big question, right? After Major 2 in Dallas, they probably could have done this last stage, and they may have found themselves in a better position because they've still got a massive uphill battle ahead of them. They're bringing in 2 players. Capsule and Spart are the 2 men coming in. So we talk about Brack potentially being linked, even Prolet I think was linked. But look, Spart, solid player. I know that Donny Temp rates him highly, thinks he could be a good asset to a team. So effectively, it's Capsule for Mack, and it's Spart for Attach. That's the decision they've made. Is it enough to make a major amount of difference to the team? I'm not so sure. Nice to see these guys get on. I think Capsule especially. I mean, look, I also like Spart, no issues there. Like, he won that event for Gorillas a couple of years ago. But I know that people will look at this and say, oh, you know, it's similar to what, like, Falcons have done, right? There's players like Mercules out there you could get, but obviously you can't get Mercules because he said no. At least that's my feeling on the matter anyway, and I don't blame him, to be honest. Is this massively moving the needle? Look, I think they should get better with this change. I think that they should, but, will they play great, fundamentally sound COD? Not necessarily, but I think it's nice for Capsule, at least, these guys to get another opportunity in the league to see what they're capable of. But I don't think it's exactly setting the world on fire, right? And they currently sit themselves at 105. They're 40 points behind OpTic, so they need to go probably like 3-2 bare minimum, probably 4-1 at least in the qualifiers, Cloud9. And if they do that and they get, if they make a Sunday at the major, they could still make champs. But it is difficult, and their run of qualifiers this stage, I mean, yeah, good luck going 4-1 in that. They play Falcons tonight, and then they play Toronto, FaZe, Heretics, Thieves. So yeah, good luck, gentlemen. I mean, enjoy the paycheck that you got for, I guess, a couple of months, and then I suppose the World Cup is coming up on the horizon as well. There was discussion, of course, with Attach departing, what might he do next? Zuma was saying on stream, of course, Dylan Attach, like attached to OpTic, I think it's tongue-in-cheek, I think it's bait, I don't expect that to be happening, especially with what Shotzzy says here in a second, that, well, OpTic are pretty satisfied with their current team, although maybe not satisfied with the results as it stands. These are OpTic's qualifiers this stage, these are Rocker's qualifiers, and as we mentioned a few days ago, they are the same, with the exception of Rocker have Falcons and OpTic have Boston, but apart from that it's all the same teams, just in a different order, which is very interesting for the stage. Of course, there's been lots of talk about, okay, Cloud9 made a change, why didn't OpTic do anything right? Because, OpTic, you'd think, should try and improve for similar reasons. aBeZy thinks that Skyz has blackmail on the team. Look, I don't think that's true. I just think that OpTic feel that they're better than they've shown, and maybe there's a feeling in, maybe Hex has said, like, obviously it's pure speculation, right? But maybe there's a feeling behind the scenes at the team, they're like, look, we made all these changes, you're really telling me another one's going to move the needle now, right? So, look, they've done a lot this year, OpTic. Maybe this is just where they decide to stick it out. And also I can justify the idea that maybe making a change every stage is not really conducive to long-term team success. Shotzzy talks about the streaming, the practice, and a few other things, but what he did say I thought was pretty fascinating. It was around what he considers their, like, delusional confidence on the team. And look, I'm not sure I'm convinced this is necessarily the best mentality to be like, look, wherever you are competitive-wise, you've just got to believe, even if there's no evidence to support it, that you're the best. And I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's like, you got to recognize if you're not the best, because then it helps you improve, right? Like, if you're just delusionally going to believe, oh yeah, we lost this match, but we're actually godlike, then, like, I'm not actually sure that helps you get better. Anyway, that's my perspective. But I do get what Shotzzy means, where he's like, look, we're better than we've shown because our practice is actually pretty damn good.
Thank you, Heisen. Thank you, brother. You gonna stream scrims at all? Are we fully locked? Fully locked. Yeah, definitely not gonna be streaming scrims. Too many people on us. There's literally no reason to. At the end of the day, it was for the community, and it's everyone's fucking using it for, like, arguments and shit. There's no reason to do it anymore. From a competitive fucking bro, anyone that has ever competed in anything, whether that be sports, fucking anything in general, bro, no matter how fucking shit your team is or how this and that, right? Even like individually, you have to be fucking delusional. That's just the way to this. It's just like a competitive thing. Do we look fucking dog shit in matches? Of course. But I mean, you guys are pretty bad. Listen, I've seen our ceiling. I put it like this: I've seen our ceiling, and like it's aid to say because it's obviously in practice. Like in matches, like I feel like we're nowhere near our fucking ceiling in matches, bro. We literally like that's not even us. I promise you, like it's nowhere near us. I'll talk about it after, but.
So I didn't want to do it, right? I didn't want to drop the frying in scrims line, but like, what else could I say? Shotzzy literally says, hey, yeah, our matches are great or not great, we look terrible, but our scrims, we've shown promise. I know what our team's capable of, right? Okay, look, fair enough. Maybe they're frying in scrims, and this is the stage we're finally going to see it. Look, I said it yesterday, I'll stick with it. I actually don't think sticking with Skyz is the worst idea. I actually don't hate it, but I don't love it, right? I mean, I'm very much tend to be of the opinion that, you know, I don't like teams that are satisfied with being mediocre, right? I like teams that take some risks to try and become the best. But with it, as it stands for OpTic, I understand why that might be a conversation for the off-season rather than a conversation for right now. So, intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. These were quickly the FaZe cards just wanted to share because they are in action again tonight. How often are you going to see Simp and aBeZy with 76, 73 rated cards? I mean, that is just absolutely unheard of. So, yeah, can they turn it around? In the hardpoints, they were both pretty damn lackluster, and tonight they play a pretty good hardpoint team, and this is who they're going to play. These are the games of the weekend. OpTic plays Surge tomorrow, but today, Surge play Atlanta FaZe, and that is, of course, rematch of the Major 2 Grand Finals. They played again, of course, this most recent weekend in Miami, and Surge won in the first round in pretty impressive fashion. After losing the game 1 in that series, Ravens then play Ultra and Falcons Cloud9. So Surge FaZe, look, it's always tough to call when FaZe are playing online. But, I mean, Surge are the clear favourites right now. They beat them on land, they beat them online before, they've done pretty well against this FaZe team. Yeah, okay, maybe there's going to be a bit of map pool testing going on, but still, I think that Surge should be favoured. They seem the better hardpoint team right now. It's not like FaZe have had massive amounts of time to turn things around, so, you know, probably take Surge into 3-1 or something. It's kind of remarkable to say, but that probably is the reasonable prediction as it stands. Ravens Ultra, look, I don't have much faith in Ravens, as much as I would kind of like to. I think they're cooked. Toronto are going to be back in business with Beans. But this final series, I've no idea how to call this one. Falcons Cloud9. Just absolutely no clue, really. Like, this is a pure coin toss to me. Because is the new Cloud9 team going to be good or any better? I don't know. Should Falcons have improved? Yes. But are they still a bit fraudulent? Maybe. Their search was pretty woeful still. So, I don't know. I'm actually going to take Cloud9 in 5. But yeah, intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.